Born in 1948 in Bronxville, New York, Frank Abagnale Jr. seemed destined for a life that was anything but ordinary. From impersonating pilots and surgeons to escaping from jail before the age of 21, Frank quickly became one of the most talented con men in history. His early years were marked by a brilliant intellect and a knack for bending the truth, but it was during his teenage years that Frank's life took an unexpected turn, leading him down a path of deception that would become the stuff of legend. Frank's journey into a life of crime began when his parents' marriage fell apart. The divorce shattered the semblance of stability he had known, leaving him feeling adrift and seeking refuge from the chaos. With an uncanny ability to mimic voices and forge documents, he soon realized that his talents could be turned to a more lucrative endeavor. Motivated by the need to support himself and his newfound taste for the finer things in life, Frank embarked on a series of audacious cons. His first exploits were relatively modest, involving petty frauds and check-kiting schemes. But as he honed his skills and became increasingly daring, Frank's criminal enterprises escalated to staggering levels. The motivation behind Frank's life of crime was a heady mix of financial gain and the thrill of outsmarting the authorities. With each successful con, he reveled in the satisfaction of outwitting the very institutions that sought to bring him to justice. His elaborate disguises and false identities allowed him to slip through the cracks of a system ill-equipped to catch a criminal so elusive and cunning. But as Frank Abagnale's crimes grew bolder, so did the determination of those who pursued him. The FBI, led by the relentless Carl Hanratty, was hot on his trail. What started as a game of cat and mouse would soon become a legendary battle of wits between a charming young imposter and the lawmen determined to bring him down. One of the most audacious chapters in Frank Abagnale's criminal career revolved around his astonishing impersonation of a Pan-American World Airways, Pan Am, pilot. It was a con that not only showcased his unparalleled ability to slip into new identities, but also demonstrated his daring willingness to take risks that seemed unfathomable. To pull off this audacious scheme, Frank knew that he needed to create an illusion so convincing that even the most skeptical airline personnel would be fooled. Armed with a wealth of knowledge he had gleaned from books and his innate ability to mimic authority figures, he began crafting his pilot persona. Frank Abagnale adopted the alias of Frank Williams and meticulously studied the world of aviation. He memorized flight schedules, learned the ins and outs of cockpit procedures, and even obtained a pilot's license. Fraudulently, of course. But it wasn't just the technical know-how that set him apart. It was his magnetic charisma and unwavering confidence that allowed him to navigate the world of aviation undetected. He waltzed into airport lounges, presented fake credentials with ease, and even managed to score free rides on various flights. His charm was his most potent weapon, convincing both passengers and airline personnel that he was indeed a real pilot. The pinnacle of Frank's airborne deception came when he managed to not only hitch rides on flights, but also occasionally co-pilot planes. Yes, you heard that right. Frank Abagnale, the high school dropout turned master con artist, was occasionally in control of commercial airliners. But that was just the beginning for Frank. He not only wanted to fly planes, but become a doctor as well. His transformation into Dr. Robert Black was nothing short of audacious brilliance. To pull off this remarkable impersonation, his first step was all about the paperwork. Using a forged medical degree and credentials that looked as legit as any real doctor's, Frank navigated an era where the scrutiny of such documents was nowhere near as rigorous as it is today. Back in the swinging 60s, digital records were still a far-off concept, and Frank seized this window of opportunity. Once inside hospitals and clinics, Frank's charm became his secret weapon. With that disarming smile, he'd stroll confidently through the halls, posing as a qualified physician. Patients, nurses, and even fellow doctors were taken in by his act. He'd strike up conversations about medical cases, exuding an air of professionalism that was nothing short of astounding. But his impersonation wasn't just about appearances. Frank also began doctoring medical records. Patient charts were tweaked, medication prescriptions altered, and he even ordered tests and procedures, all under the guise of a trusted physician. Now, if you thought Frank's medical impersonation was audacious, wait until you hear about his stint as an attorney. Just when you thought he couldn't possibly pull off another jaw-dropping masquerade, he did, taking on the persona of a seasoned lawyer named Frank Connors. Frank managed to navigate the complex world of legalities with a remarkable ease that left people baffled. What set his legal trade apart was not just his forged law degrees and doctored references, but the astounding fact that he achieved what many thought impossible. He passed the bar exam without the traditional college education and without resorting to cheating. Frank's charismatic presence and quick thinking made him a convincing attorney. He'd stroll into courtrooms, carrying an air of confidence that would make even the most experienced lawyers raise an eyebrow in admiration. He'd take on cases, offer legal counsel, and even argue in court, all while concealing the fact that he was, in reality, a high school dropout with no formal legal training. Much like his medical escapades, Frank's motivation behind impersonating an attorney was a mixture of financial gain and the thrill of outsmarting a system meant to uphold justice. He exploited his legal facade to engage in fraudulent activities and legal swindles that earned him a reputation as a shrewd legal mind. But as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end, and Frank Abagnale's astonishing run of impersonations was no exception. The story of his eventual capture is a testament to the relentless pursuit of justice and the inevitable unraveling of even the most audacious schemes. As Frank continued his high-wire act as a lawyer, his audacity escalated. He engaged in increasingly risky cons, including fraudulent investments and financial schemes that drew the attention of law enforcement agencies across the globe. The more he pushed the boundaries, the closer he came to the edge of discovery. The turning point came when a determined FBI agent named Carl Hanratty began to piece together the puzzle of Frank Abagnale's life of crime. Hanratty's dogged pursuit of the elusive con artist turned into a relentless cat and mouse chase that spanned continents and involved a web of aliases, disguises, and fraudulent documents. Frank's double life as a doctor and lawyer became a liability as Hanratty closed in. The combination of a trail of forged checks and financial misdeeds left breadcrumbs that led straight to his doorstep. Before Hanratty's pursuit, Frank's international escapades had led to arrests in France and Sweden. These encounters with the law, though temporary setbacks, provided valuable insights to law enforcement agencies worldwide. Frank's audacity knew no bounds, and his capture in these countries was a testament to the growing global effort to bring him to justice. Frank Abagnale's capture marked the end of his remarkable life on the run, but it was only the beginning of a new chapter, one that unfolded behind the cold, unforgiving bars of prison. After his initial arrest, Frank found himself confined within the walls of Cobb County Jail in Georgia. However, it wasn't long before his audacious nature resurfaced, leading to a daring escape that would briefly return him to the streets. In a remarkable turn of events, Frank managed to escape from Cobb County Jail, evading capture for 4 days. During this short-lived taste of freedom, he made his way to New York City, but the law was hot on his heels, and it wasn't long before he was apprehended again. Frank's capture in New York City led to legal consequences that would reshape his life. In 1971, he was sentenced to serve 10 years in prison for his extensive check forgery schemes, which totaled millions of dollars in fraudulent transactions. However, the audacious escape from the Cobb County jailhouse added an additional 2 years to his sentence, resulting in a total of 12 years behind bars. Incarcerated at the Federal Correctional Institution in Petersburg, Virginia, Frank's life took a stark turn from the high-stakes cons and extravagant living he had grown accustomed to. In prison, he was no longer the master of deception. He was just another inmate, facing the harsh realities of confinement. Unlike some of the daring maneuvers he had pulled off in the outside world, the security measures in place within the prison walls left little room for evasion. Frank's focus shifted from evading capture to serving his sentence and, perhaps, seeking redemption. While in prison, Frank realized that his exceptional skills could be put to legitimate use. He became an asset to the authorities, helping law enforcement agencies identify weaknesses in security systems, especially those that had allowed him to slip through the cracks during his years as a master con artist. Frank Abagnale's time in prison was a stark contrast to the audacious escapades that had defined his earlier life. Behind bars, he faced the consequences of his actions and found an opportunity for redemption through cooperation with the very authorities who had once pursued him. It was a chapter of reflection and transformation that would shape the rest of his remarkable life. If you enjoyed this journey through Frank Abagnale's life, be sure to check out these videos that are sure to pique your interest. Until next time.